Dowd, I think, yes, picked up by Patrick Ness. I think he wrote a script, yes, and then it was on a blacklist of scripts. Yeah, can you tell us about it? How it got from half book to finished film?
Yes, I heard about the book many years before I was on board. But somehow that book came to me all the time, like friends telling me about it, like something you should read. And I remember that I met Patrick once, and we had a conversation. I told him about what was my approach, and that meeting didn't work very well. And then it was like after 6 months or something like that, that he was
looking for director?
Yeah, looking for directors in Hollywood, and after 6 months we met again, and I explained myself better. Probably was my English was terrible. He decided, no, I'm not going that way. But
it's fine.
But then we started to.
And that's when the script was blacklisted, yes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'll just explain, pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas, la blacklist, c'est une série de scénarios qui sont réputés excellents et qui, pour une raison ou une autre, ne trouvent pas producteur ou réalisateur, qui sont au fond là et qui restent comme ça dans un coin. All right.
And then we started to talk about it seriously, and he understood what was my point. I was very respectful actually to the book. I tried, and at the end it was a great collaboration, and we really enjoy a lot working with each other in the film.
Je traduis? Vertaling? Si quelqu'un veut une traduction, c'est qu'il faut dire oui. Hein? Oui, bah je vais faire rapidement. Donc en fait, ce livre, il avait déjà lu il y a un certain temps, et il y a plein d'amis aussi qui lui disaient, mais tiens, regarde ce livre, c'est génial, etc. Donc ce livre, il était régulièrement mis en contact avec cette histoire-là. Il a rencontré Patrick Ness. Le livre, à la base, est écrit par une dame qui s'appelle Siobhan Dowd, et elle est décédée avant la fin, et c'est Patrick Ness qui a repris la fin du livre, qui a écrit après le scénario. Il a été retrouvé, Patrick Ness, pour lui dire « Moi, j'aimerais bien faire ton film ». Et la première fois, ça s'est pas bien passé. 6 mois plus tard, Patrick Ness n'a pas trouvé un autre réalisateur. Il l'a recontacté et a pu le convaincre à ce moment-là. Et puis la collaboration s'est très bien passée. Also, it's more of a fun question, but I read somewhere that Tom Holland collaborated in the film, but he's not even credited, or maybe he's thanked, but we don't see him in the screen.
No. He's credited. It's more like a joke, okay. Because he came to visit the set, and then we were shooting like a moment where the monster was like inside like I don't know what was that, but I asked him, why don't you put the costume, the suit for the motion capture, and do one shot? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And then I put that as a joke in the credits, but he was there just visiting the set.
Okay. Tom Holland kwam langs op de set en kan ik iets doen? Ja? En er is één special effects shot waar die groen pak moest aandoen. Hij is dus in de film als special effect man, als voor één shot, maar dat is eigenlijk meer een grap als iets anders. Thank you. I think the rest of the question will be for the Q&A after the film in this room. So thank you very much, Juan Antonio.
So I was saying A Monster Cult is a very personal story adapted from a book. And I would like to understand how you connected yourself as a person and as a filmmaker to that story. And also, what part of yourself and of your own personal story did you add to the film, if any?
The first time I sat down with Patrick Ness, I had a conversation about the ending, because the end in the book is that scene when the mother dies, and it's so shocking. It's so, I mean, it's like inviting the audience to a journey and finish that journey in that note where there's nothing more than death. I felt that somehow in that moment I get disconnected with the story. Suddenly he got scared that I wanted to keep the mother alive, and I say, no, I'm not talking about that. But I remember that there is this quote from Alfred Hitchcock that he refers to the experience of watching a movie like inviting the audience to a roller coaster. If that roller coaster will crash and everybody will die, the audience, if the audience will get into that roller coaster, will feel cheated if they will die. Because somehow when you go to the cinema, you came to the cinema today, you watch the movie, but you come back home, you're not dead right now, you're not, right? So the audience feels the same. I mean, to kill the mother at the end is like to kill the audience, and there's a moment that you get disconnected from the story. So I thought, how can we keep the mother dead at the end? She dies, of course, that's the movie, what the movie is about, but the audience needs to leave the theater in a different note. And that took me a long time to understand what was that scene that I was missing. Are you going to translate or should I? No, all right?
In English
okay.
is fine.
Okay, good. So I took this idea that to the end, at the end of the story, there is a room that's not in the book. That's like a room where he's not able to get in. He's not able to see what's behind that room. And I had this intuition that there is something about that room, and he at the end inherits that room, because I thought the kid is going to live with his grandmother, so he will have a room in that house. And then I told a friend of mine who is a psychologist, I told him, so I have this idea at the end where the kid somehow inherits a room, but he cannot see that room, the inside of the room. And he told me, there is a famous tale from the 70s, from the hippie communities in LA, in California, Juan Sin Miedo. Juan Sin Miedo, this would be like...
Sweet 16. It's a person without fear.
Yeah. So there was this tale, and he told me, this is the story of a kid who discovers a room in his house, but he cannot see what's behind the door of that room. And the key belongs to the mother, and of course the kid wants to know what's behind, but he cannot get inside. And of course the mother keeps the key. And he said that's an idea of how somehow a mother is hiding the future to his kid. The kid wants to know what's going to be in the future for him, and the mother keeps the door outside of the kid. And it's like a way of how the parents, they want somehow their kids not to know the future, and they keep the future for themselves. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, because that's what the kid has in front of him at the end. And he has his future. Of course, the mother doesn't allow him to inherit that future, and that room represents that. So it's a note on what's going to happen next. That's why the grandmother gives the room, the key of the room to the kid, because now it's like a way of telling the kid, now the future is yours. This is your room. I don't have access to it. You're going to do whatever you want in that room. And in that room discovers like this sketch pad. And I remember that at home I discovered once like a diary of my father when he did the military service in Africa in the 60s or something like that. And that was it was very interesting. That my father is an artist, so it was his diary in Africa, full of notes and drawings. He said once, he said in one page, today I discovered a snake, and there was the skin of the snake in that diary. It was super cool. And the last 20 pages of that diary were all movie tickets, which is something that I used to do when I was a kid. And then I thought, wow, so that's very shocking, you know. So this is, so I guess I am who I am because my father was a little bit like me. And that gave me the key of what was the ending of the story. So it's like a positive note where somehow you try to tell the audience that the kid now is ready. So he has the tools that somehow unconsciously inherits from the mother. and he's ready to face the future, and it's his future. That's what I told Patrick, and Patrick was very hard on changing the ending, but he understood what I wanted to do. I used to draw, and Connor in the book is not an artist, he doesn't draw. But to me it was like a way of putting myself into the story and try to get to that ending where somehow I was putting a lot of myself and my relation with my father in the story.
So if you had your own monster, let's say your own monster of personal healing or personal development, what would it look like for you personally?
What I love about the Monster Calls is that what tries to tell the audience is that the monster is always a solution. So you need to destroy in order to reconstruct, to build up again from scratch. You know, I remember that I told my friend, the psychologist, he's a great help with me when I work in the scripts, and I told, why is the apothecary gets his house destroyed, you know? Why the apothecary destroys the house of the person, you know? If he's not a bad person, and he says, because he will never learn that he did wrong if the apothecary if the monster doesn't destroy his house, because somehow you need to encounter the monster in order to be able to fix what already is inside of you, the problem that you have inside of you. It's funny that when we designed the monster, we had like hundreds of designs for the monster, like creatures that look like 8 arms, 3 heads, like all sorts of different designs. And at the end, I remember talking to another friend, another director. I talk to a lot of people when I do films, and he told me it's a very interesting book. When I read it, of course, the monster is a kid. It's a projection of the kid when he will get older, you know. And then I thought, of course, right. So the monster is the kid, and that's what he doesn't want to become. He doesn't want to become an adult. It's so easy to be a kid all your life that he doesn't want to become an adult. So I thought the monster should look like a very old man, very simple, black shape, no clothes, and like a very old man. And that's actually what the monster looks like in the book when you look at the illustrations from Jim Kay. So we had to do the whole journey of designing 100 different monsters to finally realize that what Jim Kay already had in the book was the perfect image for that monster.
And so actually talking about the illustration, it's not the same person that did the animation. In the movie, I was wondering a little bit about the animator that you worked with. How did you collaborate? And
that was very interesting. I never did animation before, and I really enjoyed it. There was this production company in Barcelona who does animation, and I knew them, and I was always trying to do something to work together with them. And then when I read the Monster Calls and I tried to figure out how the tales would be explained in the film, I thought that one thing for sure, I didn't want to see faces. I mean, if I would see the princess or the apothecary or whatever, all the characters with actors, it would be very distracting. So then I thought about doing animation, and by doing animation, that to me made sense, because I was introducing this idea of Connor being an artist, so it was like a way of like an extension to that idea. And then I called these guys. Adrian was the director. He's a fantastic director. He did already a movie, animation movie in Spain, and we sat down together. We designed like the animati together. We designed all the characters together. It was a very exciting collaboration to work with for something that to me was totally new. It looked like working animation.
The idea of having such a monstrous creature, this really looks like it was inspired by other films, and you know probably the Pan's Labyrinth, right? Mm-hmm. And other works, and Guillermo del Toro, right? You have a very close relationship with him. Could you tell us a bit more about how you met and how you got to work together and in ways that you collaborated.
I met Guillermo del Toro the first time, I think I was 17 or 18. It was in a film festival very similar to this one in Sitges, and I wanted to get free tickets for the movies. So I created like a radio show in my hometown to get the badge to have access for the screenings. So I suddenly was there in Sitges, watching all the movies for free, like 60 movies in 1 week. So it was like a dream to me, but of course at the same time, because I was a journalist, the organization told me you need to interview directors. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I will do that. And then it was Guillermo del Toro introducing Kronos, his first film. And I interviewed him, and it was a lot of fun. He was like, he always says that he kept thinking after the interview, who is this kid with sideburns? Asking me questions, pretty good questions, he said. And from that moment on, we kept in contact. He came to Spain and he shot Devil's Backbone. And then I went to the film school. And then once I finished film school, we normally used to see each other in that festival in Sitges. I normally would give my VHS tape with my short films, my music videos. And then after I finished film school, I remember I went to LA once and I called him and he said, I'm in Madrid, I'm going to do a movie in Spain called Panther. Okay, I'll visit you there in Madrid. Then we sat down in Madrid. We had dinner, and then he asked me at the end, are you preparing something? And I said, yeah, I'm preparing a horror film. And the short films I did before The Orphanage were comedies, so he was like very shocked, like, oh, that's interesting. And 1 month later was Sitges Film Festival, and then he stopped me and he said, I want to be part of your film. And I said, sure. Good. Yeah, and actually he made that film possible because we didn't have enough budget, we didn't have enough money for the film, and because he was in the film, we were able to get more money, and we finally did the film. He was very busy shooting Pan's Labyrinth, and then I finished The Orphanage, and he loved the film, and we kept the contacts. We kept contact since then, and we are very good friends. We still are very good friends. He's like a mentor to me. I normally, every time, last week I was in LA because I'm finishing the cut of my last film, so I visit him and I show him the film. Every time I finish the cut of a movie, I show to very specific people, and he's one of them.
Maybe we are going to open the questions to the audience, if you have some prepared already. Not yet? Okay.
One hand over there.
I was just wondering, how hard is it to work with a kid that's as talented as this, and how hard is it to direct such a young actor to show such powerful emotions?
Yeah, the more I work in movies, the more I discover that I love to work with actors. Because at the beginning, to me, making a film it's a lot of fun when you work in all the design of the scenes, the design of the shots and the sets and to build up the world of the film, you know, the universe. Yeah, but then the more I work in film, the more I realize that probably the thing that I enjoy the most is working with actors. So Connor had to be like a very, very, very good kid because he's supporting all the pressure of the story. And we found, we did a very long audition. We saw hundreds, probably 1,000 kids there. Very long audition, like most of them self-tapes. And then there was, at the end, like a limited group of kids, but the more limited the group of kids was, the more I was the not sure that we didn't have the kid. And then I asked the acting coach for kids, and he told me that he was shooting Pan, a movie in London, and he was one of the kids, not the lead. And he told me he's a very interesting guy. We met him, and suddenly I found this something in his eyes that told me that he was Connor. He had a personal story, so he had lost his mother like 2 years before. So you can notice that there was some conflict in the kid. Actually, that thing became more like a problem and not something that will help the kid to understand the character. Actually, he understood very well the character, but because he went through that experience, he was totally blocked to emotion, and he was also raised more by his father and not his mother. So it was interesting that when we were preparing the scenes with the mother, and he had to feel comfortable with the mother, he was not comfortable with the mother, and the father, who was the character who had not to be comfortable with him, felt very comfortable with him. So I remember I told Toby, and he's a fantastic actor, Toby, and I said, please, I don't want to do rehearsals with you. I want you to talk as less as possible to Luis, because I really want to capture with the camera that you don't have a relation, that you're coming from very far away from America, and you don't feel comfortable with each other. But every time Toby was on set, he was super comfortable with Toby because he was raised by his father, so he didn't know how to relate with women, and he only knew how to relate with men, you know. So actually, it was more like something inconveniente,
it was inconvenient.
Convenient,
right?
you know.
It got in the way.
But he was fantastic, Luis. He did an amazing performance, and every time you work with an actor, there's a learning before when you are in rehearsals, like learning how the actor works, how he responds, so then you can manage during the shoot how to get the things that you're looking for.
Thank you very much. You made us cry.
Oh, in front.
Hi, it's maybe a lucky guess, but I was wondering if Cria Cuervos is a movie important for you, because Geraldine Chaplin is playing in 2 of your movies, in this one and in The Orphanage. And if Cria Cuervos is not one of your inspiration, is there another movie talking about grief and the loss of childhood who inspired you?
And she's in Jurassic World as well, isn't she?
Yes, The Orphanage. Well, she was in The Orphanage because I remember Cria Cuervos. When you're a kid, and because I watched that film when I was very little, that movie felt like a, not horror, but like a genre film to me, because the cinematography was so different to the American movies, the sound, the music. I don't remember now if Cria Cuervos has music, the song from Janet, but I don't remember if the movie has music, has a score. So when you're a kid, and it's funny that, it's very interesting, at that time in Spain we were raised by one single television channel. So the movies that you saw were the movies that were in that channel, you know, and they used to screen lots of American movies, but also European movies, Spanish movies. So when you're a kid, you discover all these films, and I remember that I used to enjoy all of them, but from all over the world, and being a kid and discover American movies, but also discover Alfred Hitchcock, Carlos Saura, Akira Kurosawa, François Truffaut, movies that I grew up and to me were the same. You know, I put them in the same place, you know. And Cria Cuervos was a movie that I remember like being a very, very strange, eerie world. And I remember that when I was looking for the medium in The Orphanage, I thought about Geraldine Chaplin. And I only shot one day with Geraldine Chaplin. That's the money that we had for her, was one day, so we had to shoot everything in one single day. And I enjoyed so much the conversation with her, talking about the director she worked with and her father. You know, it was fantastic that I said I want to work with her again. So in the possible, we called her again for a couple of days. And then in a monster call, and we became friends now. But she's a terrific actress, and she has seen the whole 20th century in front of her eyes pass by, you know, so it's fascinating to talk to her. But yeah, Cría Cuervos was an inspiration in that sense, you know.
Thank you. There's another question from the audience. Over there.
Thank you for the wonderful film, first of all. And the question is, how long it took you to the filming process, the beginning, the production and post-production for the film?
It was a long, very, very long shoot. This is a movie that we produce ourselves. It's a Spanish movie, even though that it doesn't look like a Spanish movie, but it's a Spanish movie. So when we produce our films, we normally try to extend the shoot as much as possible, because I really like to spend time with the actors, and I think we shot for 14 weeks, like very long shoot, 14 even, probably even more. And the preparation was like a year, and post-production was probably 1 more year. So it took us like two years and a half, more or less.
Thank you. Another question? Nikki.
Over there in the first row.
Beautiful work. I'm a huge fan. I wanted to ask, what would you say, because you worked on very differing and kind of very intriguing films, and they're all kind of genre pieces, but they have different elements to them. What would you say would have been the greatest challenge that you faced in your career so far, and how did you overcome it? Or are you still working on overcoming it?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's find the right story, you know. It's like I love working on film, and it's always finding the right story and finding and being able to do the movie that will allow you to do the next one, you know. So in that sense, I've been playing a little bit with Hollywood, you know, and because of that, I've been able to do also the movies that I want to do, more personal movies that I want to do, and that most of them I have done them in Spain. But that would be, to me, the most difficult always is to choose what's going to be next.
Now that you've tried animation, would you like to stick with it, or do you want to move away from it again?
What?
Animation.
No, I love it. I really enjoy that, and I'm a huge animation fan. So I would love maybe one day to do like an animation film.
One more question from the audience. Way at the back. Oh, and there's one more here.
Thank you. One of my all-time favorite films is The Impossible, so thank you for that. And I just want to ask quickly about the tsunami scene. How did you achieve that? I watched the making of, but still, it's such a strong effect on me. So I'm curious. And then I want to ask another quick question about the TV series you just did, the Ring of Powers, if possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you've seen the behind the scenes, we shot it with the scale models. Actually, we explored the idea of using digital, and it was so out of our budget that we decided to do it for real. And actually, that was a very good decision. I mean, the tsunami looks very real because it was real. So we have a huge water tank in the south of Spain, and we created like a flood, and also we built up like big scale models with a company from Germany, Magicon. I saw behind the scenes on internet that they work in Stargate or something like that. And then I called them and we did it for real. We spent 1 year of development for that scene, only that scene. And then 4 weeks shooting that scene. And at the same moment we decided to do that film, Clint Eastwood was shooting a movie recreating a tsunami, and we thought, fuck. And he had more money than us. But actually, when you see that scene, it's very well done, but there's something, especially if you watch it now, that disconnects the tone somehow. You get disconnected because of the digital. You know, I think that
yours is better.
Yeah, because actually we saw the movie like there was like a screening for the 10th anniversary, and watching that scene again on the screen and it stands out because we shot most of it for real, you know. So when it's real and looks real on the screen, will look real in 10 years, you know.
And the question is, for me, you're a movie director, a very good one.
Thank you.
But now everything is about TV series, and now you did 2 episodes of The Ring of Power. So how do you see it? That's where everything is heading, or you have to do that so you're able to do movies? How do you think it goes?
No, when I got into The Rings of Power, the bar was set up very high by Peter Jackson. So people was not expecting something less than that. So suddenly you have that example to compare with. I normally don't watch much television because I think somehow, to me, movies are about visuals and sound, and it's very important where you place the camera to tell the story. Because of the schedule that you normally have on television, TV shows are normally shot with 3 cameras. By doing so, you are shooting with long lenses that doesn't allow you to get closer to the actors. So suddenly you lose the language, and what I like about movies is the language, you know. So I normally don't get hooked to the TV shows. It's very rare that I will watch a whole series of a show.